Cool, thanks for that introduction. So here we at Sapsa and we're at Graversen, and we're just going through a presentation about why we're doing integration testing. So I've created a tool that helps doing this testing and make it a lot easier. So this is me and this is my boss. I've been doing integration for 10 years and I'm a zookeeper in my spare time, or most of the time. So why is testing important? So I've been researching this and I found like 35% of all development costs is spent on testing. And this is a lot of time actually. So some of the line items you have developer test, there's some challenge about getting test data, you have unit test, user acceptance test. And the main thing about this is all of this takes a lot of time away from the business. So you have to pull in the business user and say, hey, we have done this change, do this update, or test everything instead of doing your real work, that is creating orders and serving your customers. So it's a waste of time in a lot of cases, and most of the time you're not even testing correctly. So some other reasons, there's some failures in the business if you're not testing, if you move something to production too fast. There's obviously relationships with your customers. If you're sending them crap data, they would probably be a little pissed on you. There's some legal implication, there's some cost issue on this. I had a client that had applied a service pack, and that service pack contained some changes in the way SP was handling user-defined functions. So if you created a user-defined function, we're getting a little nerdy here, but I guess since all of you are peer developers, you know this. If you have created a user-defined function that were looking at a full queue, it had two outputs. So this is not something that happens that often, but then this function was called 2 times. The challenge with this was it created an extra context at the end, and that meant that some of the orders when they were sending them out were failing because this was not accounted for. And they have run this for a week, and then they found the problem and saw what was wrong. We figured out what the issue was, and they had to roll back and do a lot of extra support and maintenance just to make sure that everything was working. So that's one of the implications on why a testing, even if you're just applying a node on PI, is important. Some other problems, not enough test data, too complex to, so if you have a scenario, you're just testing, we can create this order with one line in C4C and it comes all the way into ERP, but you're not testing the complex one where you have 3 different line items on this order that are different types with different scheduling things. That is really what is causing the mappings to fail most of the time. So I was frustrated on this, and I was doing physiotherapy at one time, and so this was Shockwave, where he was actually putting with a air pressure gun under my foot, and it was really painful. And then I got this epiphany about I could actually put in modules in the beginning of end of each module chain, each processing, get the message and resend it through the same channel, and I would be able to verify that a lot of the parameters was the same, and see. So this would be a really easy way for me to, or clients, to get test data, run it, and see that nothing has changed. Because as I said before, it's really challenging to get any test data and run it and see if anything has changed. So we did a proof of concept. I got a team developing this application, and there's been a lot of iterations and adding new features. So it's a long process, but we are getting somewhere. So ERT, integration regression testing tool, it will allow you to record messages from your productive system. You you will be able to set up a test case on your development or your test system where you can run this through and see that everything runs as you expect it to. And then you can verify that the payloads is the same and nothing has changed. Just have to make sure this one is not going on sleep mode. So here we have your productive system. On it you install a small agent where we have this module in. So there's a small software component with not too much data in, just making this as low impact as possible. And what you then do is you select an ICO and you say, I want to test this ICO. And then we add in a module at the beginning of the processing and at the end. And that's it. We've looked at some of the delays that this causes. Obviously it causes a bit of a delay because you have to call in some extra functionality. If you're not doing recordings, so this is just standing idling, it will cost around a millisecond, less than a millisecond. If you're doing a recording, then it will take 3 milliseconds, obviously depending on system size and whatever, but it's rather little that it's impacting the system out. So what happens is you say, okay, now I've added the modules, now I want to do recording on this, and it will then say the next interface that runs through with this sender, this interface determination, or this interface and this virtual receiver, we want to record. So it will take in the message, put it in a GMS queue, and we'll then take up this message from the GMS queue on our test system or development system where we have installed the EIT application. So we wanted to use the GMS because we just want to do a fire and forget, and then everything process. This module will never fail. If anything go wrong, it'll just continue there. So minimizing the impact on the productive system as much as possible. So what happens if you want to do a test is you still have the same ICO. Obviously it may be changed. So here you're using ERP production. Then we would rename it to ERP development on this system. Then we would create a new communication. If you are not used any module, we would just use a standard module that we created to test it with the XI3.0 protocol. And the benefit of using the XI3.0 protocol is we don't need to change your existing iFlow. We would just send in the message as a virtual message, and it will actually be processed the same way as it was coming from up here and all the way to the end. And what would then happen is it would go through the operation mapping, all the modules you would have, and then it would be saved for comparison, and the message would be sent to the receiving system. We're also adding a feature that will allow you to say, I don't want to send this message, so we'll just throw an error. So if you have an AS2 partner you don't want to communicate with, or you know it's failing, you can just say, well, ignore this error, cancel the message, and we're good with that. Actually, I think I'll just do one more thing. We're also doing synchronous recording. And here, because it's synchronous, we do have two different requests. So we have a request mapping that we're sending to a partner. So we're comparing the original message we're sending to the, if it's an SAP backend system, we'll save this one and do a comparison with this one. And then we have two options. As default, we would not be saving this one. So we'll just map the response you have all the way through. But we also have the option, so if you know that the order you're getting back or the message you're getting back looks a lot different than what you have in your productive system, you'd also be able to save it. So the response here would always be the same as you always had, and so you can easily do a comparison But let me show you what the application looks like if it works. So normally there would be more tiles on this one, but it's just the screen resolution that makes this challenging. So we have a list of all the ICOs we have on the system. So you don't install an agent system, you install your test system. Here I just have one system where I have all installed, but it doesn't make any difference in what you have. So here you can see all the different ICOs, and I just want to do a recording of one that is called on this one. So I would first add modules. I already have done that, but it shouldn't be any problem. Then I want to record here, and we will do the manual first, just so you can see what's happening. We'll select the inbound type, what type of message we have. Then we would select which ICO we want to run this on. So if we have our production system where it's called base P, we want to map this locally to base D. We can use a splitter. If it's a B2B message, we can send it in through a different splitter. And then we can have different ways of messaging this thing. So we could say, for instance, in Pontus' example where he said he had these 50 different sales systems, he would be able to specify saying this with an XPath saying this is to system A, B, or C. So he would be able to just do a test case for system A. But we'll just use not SAP, record two messages. So we recorded a test case. Oops. This one was behind here, so let me see if I get this one. So here I'm just calling this web service. We get some input data on it, and we get some response data that you may be able to see out here. So if we go back here, we can then see we got 2 inbound messages and 6 outbound messages, because we were recording the state before and when we get data back and just before we deliver it to the client. And when we can go in here, we can see all the different messages, and if we want, we can edit these messages. We can change this if we want to, and then we can create a test case on this. I think this should work. So now we have created a test case, and then we can see the data about this test case, about how it's running locally. We can see it has these 2 output receiver systems. There's the virtual receivers if we're using those. Then we have what are the output type we're comparing with. Is there any elements we want to ignore in this document? And then we have a list of all the different test cases that we have. So if we say run test, we would then be able to see how this test runs. We can see we got an error. We can see here we got an error on when we are sending this one. And if we have a look here, we can see that this document that I just changed in the default was changed. And if I accept, so I can either say mark this as a new test case, and then we would compare against this target, or I can actually just say this. I know that this XPath is changing, so that would be relevant for instance, if you are doing orders or delivery dates that would change or current date, then you would be able to specify these XPath quite easy. And then you can just go back, run the test again, and we can then see it ran successfully. We download the report here. So we can, for all the tests we can run, we can download a report, we can see what was run, we can see the details, what are the different messages we had, what are the state, we can open all of them, and we can then see what was changed in this document, so we're able to easily find all the errors that we have. Any questions so far?
Well, let's say we have an EDI scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And we are getting a flat file
Mm-hmm.
from a partner. We want to pick up the flat file because in this particular case the reason for the change is that we are switching from Seaburger on 731 to B2B add-on 750, which is obviously what I'm about to do now. And one of the challenges that I've seen here is it's hard to get the actual flat file format for in a sender scenario. Could be hard to get on the receiver side as well. So the question is really, does the module that you insert, the RT module, does it actually pick up a piped file, for instance, or does it pick up the already converted file?
It picks up, so if you have a normal file converter, then, and you're using the built-in file conversion, then it would get the XML file that the file converter has been creating.
Yeah.
If you've used the B2B add-on, Seaburger's flat file converter or whatever, EDI separator, it would be able to get the file, the EDI file,
Yeah.
because we're placing it in the beginning of the module chain.
Yeah, before the Seaburger module. And that would basically...
So if you have your Seaburger module here,
Yeah, okay.
then it will pick the XML file, the text file, or EDIFACT file.
Yeah.
If you've used, if it's already XML when it gets to the module,
Yeah, okay, but in what scenario would it already be an XML?
if it was the built-in file content conversion.
Ah, okay, yeah.
But then again, you would also be using it on your development system.
That is true. But I mean, in the case that I'm talking about now, we are actually exchanging the mapping program, and the mapping program in this case would be the big mapping.
Yes. So you would need the EDIFACT file and compare it to the IDOC.
Yeah, that would be the preferred way of
Yeah.
testing.
Yes. Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else?
One question. When the module comes in, does it support all communication protocols? So can you add the module on a SOAP channel, for example?
Yes. So it is. So we have two limitations on this module. So one is if you have used any of the modules have a password in them, we are unable to edit the module chain using the API. So in that case, you would get an error saying, "Hey, do this, add the module manually where you want it." And if it is, so this would normally be encryption if you have PGP.
Yeah, PGP, exactly.
Yeah.
Then you want to place it after the PGP because you just want to test with the plain file, not the encrypted file.
Yep.
And also on the other end, you don't want to do a comparison on the encrypted file. That's
But then you would have to change the module order manually.
yes.
Yeah.
But then it's okay. I think for the PGP mod, we also have an option just saying, "Hey, overwrite this." But we will, if it's PGP, we will always place it on the plain text side of the PGP module.
Because that might be a problem. Let's say we have a scenario, which is the original scenario, let's say in PI.
Mhm. Where you're converting, where you have a module here that says P2P.
So then, and then you say I need to change the module order, but that would, in principle, mean that you would have to edit the channel itself, which is not always easily done in the production system.
Yeah.
Because of restrictions
Yeah.
around authorization and things like that.
Yes.
But that, so there's a rule somewhere that you could, or configuration that would say if PGP module is used, put it before or after.
Yes. So P2P we have supported, and I think we will also be doing some wrap up, because in the NetWeaver Developer Studio, if you're using that one, so that it has an HTTP API, and there you're able to add modules without having to know the password. So we are looking into that, so we are able to bypass it. But
I know about directory API.
so now we're using the directory API, but it's not supporting API passwords.
Okay.
Obviously, it supports that if you have a HTTP password you're using on this, it's that one is supported, but not module chain passwords.
No.
Was that it? Otherwise, so now we're coming to the fun part. This is the part where I'm actually going to show you what we did just coming out of the lab. So obviously this is good if you just have one interface you want to test. If you want to do full testing of your PI system, you have a lot of work to collect all of these messages. So we have a scenario here, we have 10 different invoice scenarios, we want to record them all. So what we'll do is we would select a few of these, and we would say record message. We would like the automated approach, so we can see actually some of these have not added the modules. So we need to go in and do that. So we would record message, do it automatically, and we'll add it to this template. We want to do 2 messages for each of these. We'll save it. And then we have a testing template where we have all of these different test cases in our, so we have a list. We can see we've got 4 new recordings out of 4. We haven't got any messages on them. If there were any failed processing, we would get it here. So that could be this about the password that we wanted to add. So we would just select all of them. And then it had added all the module. And then we can see it then starts listening for these messages. So we can see that there's some activity on the system. We're receiving messages one at a time. And I think we'll just, so we can either do all of them at once, so when all of them, so when we've recorded enough messages for all of them, we will then be able to create this. So this was just coming out of the development. We would also make some scheduled jobs, so if you have new recordings, it will just automatically record them, and it would also automatically create these test cases for it. So let's see if we got some more messages. No, that's okay. So we'll just do a test case on this one item we have. And this was number 10. So we can see it here. We can then run all these test cases together. So it will just send all the messages in. And you can then see the result of this. So it all ended in error, which is probably a good idea. So we would have to go into this one. We review the results. What was wrong with this one? I know this one is okay. So I'll just add this XPath as ignore. And this one is also okay. So now we can go back. We can rerun all our tests again. And then we got some of these that ended in error because we have added these XPath ignores. So this is really a fast way about creating new test cases, run them, and make sure that they all are successful before you start applying the support packages.
This is interesting, but this would require quite some manual fiddling about to rule out timestamps and ID
Yes.
fields and all these things. Is there a way to automatically find them, so say, automatically ignore them?
If you have an idea about how I'm able to, so
Regression expression on date, for instance, or time, the word time in a field would basically be something that would change without being an error.
yeah, I think the only thing we would actually see would be the current time, current date, that kind of thing that would change.
Yeah, but that's part of a hell of a lot of messages.
Yeah. But yeah,
I'm just...
I would like to be able to do that, and I guess
On the other hand, it must be also dangerous, as we can imagine that we have logic in the mapping that will is calculated expected delivery date, and we get rid of all days, we can miss something.
yes.
So yeah.
Calculated delivery date you would need to ignore if you say 5 days from today.
Yeah.
We would have to ignore that. And you probably would see if you're recording the message now and tomorrow, if you're just having the date, it would fail tomorrow, and you'd have to go through and see, okay, this calculated delivery date is okay, that it is changing between each version. But at least you got this.
Yeah, well, it's a small problem compared to the game.
You're easily able to add these XPath ignore, so, and you can browse to it. We may need to have something on this one also. There's also comparison on edifacts. Let's see if we've got this one. So here we have also, no, this is edifact XML. This one. So here we have a compare type that's XML through. So on edifact we also have this that you can ignore certain elements and then run it again, and then this one would be ignored. But yeah, it would still require a little work to go through and figure out all of these different things.
But then again, compared to not having the tool at all,
yeah,
would require huge amounts of things.
yes.
I'm just trying to be a little bit difficult.
I know. You always are.
Yeah.
So we also do support. So you have three ways of doing testers, create test cases. The automated one for IQs, as we have shown here. There's also a way to upload files. So if you have a set of files, you can upload them with these different properties. And then there's also a way to do it on dual stack systems, where you can do a recording and then you'll be able to run the comparison on your PI system. So this is ideal for our migration projects. And with 7.5 SP6, you also have sender and receiver agreements that you can deal with, and we're probably also going to support those things to enable you to test with those
What about classical scenarios?
classical scenarios.
I.e. not echoes, but with the receiver data.
That one we support, that's the dual stack recording.
Yeah.
So we have a sender agreement, for instance, on a Java system or on the Java file base. You're sending through the ABAP and then the IDOC adapter. Then we would be triggering our message on the sender agreement. We'll see that the message is coming in on the IDOC or on the Java, and then we'll schedule a job that would fetch out the message ID, and then we would run it through here. So you need some mapping between these different formats.
Okay.
Anything else? I think I've got most of these things covered. Sync, async messages.
I think the epiphany part of this, i.e. using modules,
Yes,
is pretty smart.
thanks. Because yeah, we can do recording of everything. I guess this would be the next one. No, what we're not recording is obviously we're not able to test what happens in the backend, and we're not able to test HTTP connection if it works or if it has changed. But at least you'll be able to support the cases where mapping has changed or modules or whatever is going on.
Yeah, but it's also good that it doesn't look at that, because in our case we are switching out HTTP connections for encrypted ones, HTTPS. So we sort of don't care about the protocol.
Yes.
We care about the messages. And
Yeah.
that is useful.
I heard about a tool that was doing could hook into the Java communication, but it became difficult in finding all different kind of messages going out there. So this is the easy approach. Use cases. So migration projects would be quite a useful thing for it. And then you got the part about patching. Patching a system, you want to make sure that it fits. And then you got everyday support. You have to correct the mapping. You want to make sure that at least all the other mappings you have, they run and everything looks good. And you can get a free trial. That's a 30-day trial. figaf.com/ERT. Or send me an email and I'll get you done. So that was it. If any questions?
We did it during the presentation, I think.
Okay, good.
Thanks a lot.